Am I the asshole for telling my friend I get why he's no longer invited on trips when he came to me upset? I am friends with Jack, a student. Mid-20s. Jack is close friends with Dave, who is older than us and more established. He works in luxury hospitality, so he's able to get good deals and has all the connections. Jack was invited to join Dave in a holiday town about 7 hours away by train. Jack doesn't drive. The offer was, I'm available during these days, 4 days, you get your ass down here, I'll handle the rest. I found out about it when Jack posted a countdown timer of the trip on IG. I was a little jealous but happy for him. It's an expensive place and only having to pay to get there, and your best friend pays for the rest is wowza. Dave showed Jack the hotel, asked what restaurants Jack wanted to try, got everything organized with Jack involved. This was a trip they were pumped for. This was June, the trip was for very end of August. Jack posted 3 more countdowns on IG. Jack never went because he waited until 9 days out to book his travel and it was too expensive. Dave took it pretty well considering he kept asking if Jack had bought this train ticket, and had warned him about the dynamic pricing. So they decide to meet up at Dave's place in beginning November before Dave leaves for the winter to work. It's across the country but it's only like 6 hours by direct train. Jack tells me about all the things Dave planned: a hot spring and spa day, hikes to some gorgeous lakes in the mountains, some nice restaurants. They're psyched. Jack told me this weekend that he can't go because train tickets are too expensive again and it would eat 1/2 his monthly budget. I asked what happened to the money that was saved for August, and he had spent it thinking he had enough time to save up for November. I explained that we're students, all our holidays are during peak travel dates. Waiting the week before to book travel is always going to be more expensive. He just shrugged and said he thought it would be fine. Jack came upset because Dave isn't reacting to memes and vids as usual and hasn't given a concrete date or place for them to meet up next year. I just said that I get it. If I were Dave I would have been mad at Jack bailing just now. All Jack had to for both trips was just get on a train to those places, and he couldn't do that. I said maybe Dave will let Jack know about a trip but don't expect to be consulted about it anymore. I just don't get it. Jack has said several times now that he'll be at the next one, to the holiday town. But if he keeps bailing because he can't be bothered to buy tickets early enough or can't even figure out how to get to the one train station in Dave's town without asking a million questions, there won't be a next trip for Jack. Jack hasn't really talked to me since, and I wonder if I overstepped or was out of line. Maybe I should just have said, yeah, that sucks, you'll see what happens. Not the asshole. Your friend needed a reality check, and you provided it. If he really wants to hang out, and I suspect more, with your other friend, he needs to make it a priority. So far he hasn't, as shown by his actions. Hopefully this will be a growing experience for him and next time he'll prioritize properly, or at least admit to himself that he wants to do something different. Not the asshole. You two were having a conversation. This was the topic. One person says something, the other responds with their thoughts. That's how conversations work. It's not like you came for him, you just told him how you felt. Super weird that he is that sensitive about what you said. Thinking face. Not the asshole. Call Dave, see if you can meet up with him. Jack is wrong, he should have bought that ticket in August. Everyone knows ticket prices are higher the closer to the date. If I was Dave I would do the same exact thing. Not the asshole. Jack approached you. If he didn't want your POV, then he shouldn't have asked. Not the asshole. It might have been painful for Jack to hear. But if he would heed your advice, then he actually could have some good trips coming up. That is, unless Dave is just tired of trying to plan things with him. You were not mean or overcritical. I'm not understanding where the interpersonal conflict is. Is it with Jack? ETA. Not the asshole. But you've said your opinion, so drop it and let Jack figure it out on his own. You can't fix their friendship, least of all, Jack. Am I the asshole for yelling at my neighbor for secretly driving my daughter to school? My 37F, 10-year-old daughter has been walking to school on her own for a couple of years. She knows the route, she's always on time, and she's never had any issues. We live in a relatively safe area and the school is a 15-minute walk from our home, with ample sidewalks and crosswalks. Today, I found out that our neighbor has been driving her to school without my knowledge. I'm furious and went off on her after I found out. I feel like she's overstepping boundaries and undermining our parenting. My daughter told me she doesn't think it's a big deal and that it was just some free rides. I'm still concerned about the neighbor's actions and find it concerning also that she apparently has been doing this for 6 months at the end of last school year also. And I told my husband, 33M, we needed to set some serious boundaries. My husband thinks I overreacted and should apologize for shouting at her and that it's her business if she wants to give our daughter a ride anyway, even though we've explained our reasoning in the past. Am I the asshole here? Not the asshole. First, your daughter needs to know she shouldn't accept rides from anyone that isn't you or dad. Second, how well do you know your neighbor? Like know your neighbor? She shouldn't be offering rides anyway. Third, how well does your husband know the neighbor to think you're overreacting? And it sounds like your husband needs a wake-up call. The majority of child abuse cases occur in the home or with someone the child feels comfortable with. Not saying your neighbor is like that, but I don't know the full story. Do whatever you need to. You child's safety comes first. Info. You say, she's always on time, and she's never had any issues, but apparently she didn't tell you that a neighbor was giving her a lift every day for 6 months. So how do you know there weren't any other issues that your daughter didn't mention? So many details missing. From the lack of detail, I'm imagining you actually do think you're the You know, details like the neighbor has a kid in the same class. Or the neighbor is a teacher at the school. Or the neighbor is an 87-year-old who is the local crossing guard. I feel like you're omitting details to make this sound worse than it is. Info please and thank you. You are the asshole, simply because you yelled instead of talked. Do you know the whole situation? Did your daughter ask for a ride? Did the neighbor offer because her kid and yours are friends? I gave so many peers of my kids lifts to and from school because of rain or missed buses or they were the last kid walking alone. One thing different I did do was talk to the parent after the fact and offer my number for emergencies. I know times have changed since then, but I think we do not have the whole picture here. There are either other factors or your daughter does not know to never accept rides from non-approved people, which is a huge deal. The fact that your daughter hid it makes me think she was scared to tell you. Why is that? You are the asshole. Your daughter clearly isn't comfortable walking and obviously didn't feel like she could approach you about it. I'm glad she has a safe adult to turn to. Info. I'm confused as to what you were upset about from what you wrote when you said the neighbor was undermining your parenting. What do you mean by undermining? I totally get the overstepping of boundaries. Am I the asshole for telling my deaf brother he should be patient while I learn ASL? My 26M brother, 18M, was born deaf. He is the only deaf person in our family. But our parents and our older sister managed to become fluent in ASL, and while I did learn enough to communicate the essential with him, I was about 9-10 when the rest of the family was full on taking ASL classes, and back then it seemed like a boring chore for a boy that age. I do regret never properly learning it, because of course I'm not as close to my brother as the rest of our family, and I decided to do something about it now that I moved back home. Long story, having to do with my father recovering from a work-related accident. I'm learning online and taking classes thrice a week. I didn't tell anyone in my family that, partially because I'm ashamed I didn't put on the effort to learn the language like the rest of them. And I'm trying my best to sign when talking to my brother instead of texting, but I sense he gets impatient when communication gets slow and he starts texting me in response. So I asked him not to text and bear with me, and told him he should be patient cause I'm still learning. To my surprise he said I never gave a shit about learning ASL when he was growing up, and I got the sense this hurt him over the years. Am I the asshole for insisting he grant me some patience though, even though I spent the last 18 years of his life giving him the impression I didn't give a damn to learn his language? You are the asshole. I'm glad to learn that you've realized the error of your ways and are looking to take corrective action. I sense he gets impatient when communication gets slow. He should be patient cause I'm still learning. That said, practice on _your own _time. I asked him not to text and bear with me. I feel like he gets to dictate how he's most comfortable communicating. You're 26. Not being interested in learning ASL as a 9-10 doesn't matter anymore. What about when you were a teenager? A young adult? You're now in your mid-20s thinking, oh yeah, that little brother I can barely speak with, I should do something about that. You've never made communicating with him any kind of priority, not even half-assing picking it up from the rest of your family. Yes, you are the asshole. It's great that you're finally making an effort to be part of his life, but he's not going to just get over the fact that you've never bothered to before, for the entire 18 years he's been alive. You didn't give him the impression that you didn't give a damn about learning his language. You proved to him that you didn't give a damn about him as a person, as a brother, for years. You are the asshole. I get that you want to connect more now, but telling him to be patient feels kinda selfish. He has waited long enough for you to learn. You gotta understand how he feels given the history. Just keep working on your ASL and let him show you where you struggle. Better to build that bond slowly. Give yourself time. You are the asshole. Your deaf brother is 18 and you're only now learning ASL, even though the rest of your family was learning it. Of course he doesn't think you give a crap. For his entire life, you never bothered to learn to communicate with him. You considered it a chore. I don't think you get to ask for patience from him now that you're finally learning. Patient because you only recently realized what an asshole you've been to him by refusing to learn it earlier. Not how it works. You are the asshole. Am I the asshole for refusing to interact with my partner's adult children? My partner and I have been together for 10 years. He has 2 adult children, 1 son and 1 daughter. In the 10 years we've been together, I can count on one hand the number of times Elv met with his kids, usually for his birthday or a holiday. In the past year, his son got married and there were several events surrounding the wedding. My partner initially stated that I was invited to the events, but on the day of one of the smaller events, I was informed that I was not invited to the dinner because I'm not family. Fast forward a few months later to Labor Day weekend. My partner included me in a group text that he labeled, All Family. The following is an excerpt from the group text. To add some context, the family owns a lake home that is shared by the family. They use a shared calendar to indicate when they will be using the house, and his daughter selected the Labor Day weekend. Partner. Regarding Labor Day, when you put, family, does that include Chris and me? Daughter. No, that's our immediate family. If you want to come up, you are free to. After her reply, I left the group chat. Now the holidays are approaching and my partner doesn't understand why I don't want to associate with his kids. I explained to him that I feel it's clear that his kids don't want me around them. I provided him with the 2 examples above and I told him that I know he's stuck in the middle but that forcing the issue isn't good either. Am I being an asshole for, in my POV, giving his kids what they want? Not the asshole, but he needs to stick up for you. Assuming 3's no reason for them not to like you, it sounds like there isn't? He needs to tell his kids they don't have to be your best friend, but they need to be polite. It sounds like not only are they not including you, they're purposely making sure you know you're excluded, and your parent is letting it happen. I would not want to try to interact with them either. So definitely not the asshole. Not the asshole. His kids resent you. He will either stand up for you or you need to start thinking of your own future. You really need to edit the post to include the information that when you started dating, you were 40 and your partner was 69, so there's a 3-decade age gap, and you're only a couple years older than his kids. And that your partner came out of the closet after divorcing the kid's mother in the 1990s, and their mother is now dead, and she died about a year before her son's wedding. Leaving all of that information out of the post is making it a lot harder for people to understand what's going on. Nah, I'm not sure why you're so stuck on being seen as family to these kids who aren't yours. They don't owe it to you to treat you as such. If you don't want to be around them, that's up to you. But they did nothing wrong here. Info. You are aware that the word you is the same word both singular and plural? Info. I read this a couple times and am not understanding the whole group text and what happened. It didn't sound like anyone slighted anyone, but I might be misreading it. Can you further explain why you felt upset and removed yourself from the group text? I'm getting the impression that they invited you, which doesn't sound like a bad thing to me.